Employees. If you're going to grow, you're going to have employees, right? But what if you're a smaller company? What if you're a medium-sized company? How do you attract and keep employees in this climate, especially with the big boys throwing money around like they're crazy?
Welcome to HVAC Greatness, your weekly source for HVAC business excellence. By subscribing and tuning in here, you'll get insider access to proven strategies, tips, and insights for the HVAC business owner who's tired of the stress and frustrations and struggles that are common to HVAC. Let's redesign your new, highly organized, and hugely profitable HVAC business where being an owner is fun again.
Hey guys, Pete here, HVAC Greatness. So this conversation we need to have. We need to talk about this. And this may feel like Pete thinking out loud, but it's not. As you know, I work with a bunch of business owners and several other coaches. And one of the things that came up, I'll give credit to Dennis Homan over at Profit Acceleration Academy. He does some coaching as well. And he says that his larger dealers, heating and air conditioning business owners, are starting to have meetings with the technicians and explain to them why they're lucky to be working at this larger company, why they don't want to go and work for those small companies out there, all the reasons why they're fortunate to be a part of this organization, and all the reasons why you don't want to be out there with those other companies. You basically. And this is interesting because I feel, and this is my experience speaking, that they are building value in the company that they have so that they can retain customers. Now, they can already afford a little bit more because of their size generally, and they're already more established, but they can't afford to lose employees. In fact, most of the HVAC business companies out there of any size, they already have a process of bringing and recruiting people from outside of the industry who have a greater capacity for learning our trade than average. They know what to look for. And they're bringing these people in, they're training their own team, and they're conditioning them that this is the place you want to be. You don't want to be anywhere else, because now that they've made that investment on training these individuals to become service technicians or maintenance technicians or installation technicians or IAQ specialists or whatever, they really need some return on that investment by the employees sticking around. But there's a lot of stuff going on. Employees right now are feeling the multitude of options that are in front of them, and they're starting to say, "Hey, I'm not going to settle. I can have more. I can get more, et cetera, and so forth." So all this stuff is kind of moving together, right? There's all these pieces that are moving. But what about you? What about if you don't have any employees yet, or if you have a few, or if you're already starting to lose some, and maybe you've lost one here and one there? What should we be doing? Well, first of all, we want to be informed. You got to know that the big companies out there, they have set up in their organizations positions that never existed before. They may have 1, 2, or 3 social media full-time staff people that are filming their work and putting themselves out to the world. Now, do you have time to do that? Culture building. They are working on their culture. They're building a business in which people, for whatever reason, feel like they need to stay. And they understand how the mind works. They understand how technicians particularly think. And they're preaching that. They're teaching their employees, you don't want to go anywhere else. You're fortunate to have this job here. And if you leave, you're really putting yourself out there at risk. Look at the economy, look at everything that's going on, and so on and so forth. And because most service technicians are what they call risk adverse, in other words, they don't They don't like to take risks. They want some security. They tend to stay with the bigger companies. Okay, but what about you? What can you do? You know, they have high dollar marketing agencies with very powerful marketing messages, and when we look at their ads and they appear just like any other ads, they're actually pretty well thought out, and they're targeting a specific area of the market. So they're getting these really nice customers. So they're getting the good customers, they're getting the good employees, they're making more money, and they're doing a better job of putting themselves out there. But what about you? What about me? What about we little guys? What can we do in order to combat that? Okay, so I'm circling back around. The first thing that we ought to do is mull this thing through. And Dennis and I work with two mastermind groups full of heating and air conditioning business owners, and we talked about this. And so, as we're talking about these different things, I want to share some of the things that we talked about. Why do employees stay, and why do they leave? Well, everybody wants to talk about money. That's money is an emotional thing for employees as well as customers. But ultimately, your best employees and your best customers are going to look beyond money. I mean, it's important to them too, but if there are other factors in place, they're going to take those into account. And a lot of times, it's not the money that's the most important thing, right? And if you're hiring somebody who it's just about the money, you got to be careful about that. What about having to work out of town or long distances from work? If you're at a bigger company, you have less travel time typically because you get to stick to your area, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe less overtime. Maybe less time on call because there's more technicians to go around, or maybe it's proportional. Maybe it's about the same. Maybe better insurance. They provide better insurance than you. Retirement, 401k, all these other types of benefits. So that's always been an important thing to leverage, for the big companies, because if you have the benefits and everything else. But like I used to say back in the day, I can't eat benefits. I've got to make some decent pay, right? So while a lot of these things are important, and I'm going to cover a couple more as we continue to go, I want you to understand this. When a customer calls you and says your price is too high, are they all of a sudden authorities on all your pricing? And do they understand your numbers? Do they understand what it costs for you to do business? What does it cost for you to pull into their driveway? Of course they don't know. They're not experts. They're comparing it to something in the moment. And so when an employee says something like, well, this other company has, retirement benefits, it's what's hot in the moment, but ultimately, is that the button that needs to be pressed in order to make them change or stay? Maybe, it may not be. But stability is very important for many of these technicians. And so if you're cutting back their hours, if you can't guarantee them 40 hours, and you're sending them home, or you're laying them off, or what have you, obviously that's not going to work. Okay. So they need some stability. They have to feel like they're secure in their position. They have to feel like they're part of something, and they have to feel their structure there, right? It needs to feel like someone knows what they're doing up top. What about a career path? I mean, do you want to just work at a job and do this thing forever? Or would you like to see the opportunity for advancement? If you go to a big company, there could be plenty of opportunity for advancement. If you stay at a small company, maybe there's not much opportunity, but there's a heck of a lot less competition for the opportunity that comes up. Guaranteed hours, steady work. What about paid training? What about a job, a specific role, a specific job? I'm just a service technician. I'm not climbing up there and installing two. It could be something. It actually could be the opposite. I'm a maintenance technician, and all they do is have me out there cleaning coils. I want to learn. Why don't they cross train me? There's two sides to that. Fear of loss. The security that comes from being with that big company comes at risk if they leave that big company, come to work for a small company. That's a big step. It could be as easy as a new truck. I remember talking to one of the guys that I work with, and he was talking about how when he got that new job, they gave him a brand new truck or new truck, and it was so nice. And it was just, he was so happy because he was in that new vehicle, you know? And so, you know, there's all these different things that are going on. So what am I saying? Here's the bottom line. Let's come back around full circle. You've got competition out there, and your competition doesn't just want your customers. They want your employees. And they're going to get them if you just sit back and don't do anything about it. So since they're better at some of these bigger things, since they are literally hiring people for social media to come out and film their install crews or their service techs on the job and constantly put this data out there in the market, how can you compete with that? Or is it possible that you can do something too? How can you build, and keep in mind, HVAC greatness, quick plug, is about building this machine, this system that not only works and is profitable, that's the byproduct. It builds this persona, this impression, this level of professionalism that allows your customers to perceive you or your company as top notch. Even if you only have one or two vans, when they see your vans, they see your websites, they see your uniforms, they hear how your team communicates, they experience everything from the call that comes into your office all the way through the process, you know, of knocking on the door, service call or the sales call or the maintenance visit or even the installation, what have you, all the way through, and then follow up. This type of stuff here, your greatness, allows them to enjoy that from a perspective of being having done business with a professional. Okay. And so that's important, particularly when they're getting ready to write a big check. If you come out, you've heard me say this before, if you come out in a beat up van and, you know, your shirt tails are hanging out and you're all dirty and you say, I can put that system in for you for $20,000. You know, I'm not going to write you a $20,000 check if if you just look like a $3,000 company. However, if you come pulling out, you come in, you're professional, and you have a nice presentation, and I'm looking at your price book, and it's very professional, and there's a $20,000 option in there, and I can see how professional you are. Cleanliness and organization and all that stuff allows me to perceive you as value, and I'm going to buy from you, or I might come to work for you. You see, the same thing that attracts high quality customers will also attract high quality employees. And a lot of times the very things that attracts and keeps them are way different than what you think they are. When I first started my business, I remember going to a sales class and learning how to do in-home sales. And I'm competing against companies that have been in business for 40 years. And there I've been in business 2 years. You know, how do you do that? How do you sell against that? And the teacher said, you play the hand you're dealt and you play it with conviction. And so my process became, you know, how long have you been in business? I've been in business for 26 months. And you're fortunate to be working with a company at this stage. What do you mean fortunate to be working with a company at this stage? Well, Mr. Customer, most of these big, fat, lazy companies are resting on their reputation that they built years ago, not us. We're building that reputation right here, right now. In fact, your job, if done right, is my next, leads to my next job. You're going to be part of my portfolio. I want photos of your equipment and your duct to show what a beautiful job we do. I need your testimonial to tell other people how happy you are. And I can't do that by resting on my reputation. I have to do something more. I say that because if you want quality, this is the organization to work with, because we're hungry and we're on a move and we've got a mission and we're going somewhere. And we love you to be a part of that. So playing the hand that you're dealt means that whatever you've got, if you've been in business one year, 2 years, that's the greatest thing in the world. If you've been in the business 40 years, 60 years, that's the greatest thing in the world, right? So you play the hand that you've got. Now, there's several elements, and what you're going to find out, guys, and that's why I want to encourage you to stick around. You're going to find out that these big companies, they have full-time recruiters, and they're going outside of the industry, and they're bringing people in, and they have their own internal training department. Do you have time to stop work and train people to do maintenance? I don't know, to diagnose a furnace or a heat pump? Or are you still out there turning wrenches yourself? So you're going to have, if you're in that position and you're still in the field, or you're barely out of the field, you're the one that jumps in the field if anybody calls in sick, maybe you're still small. How are you going to recruit and hire and train people from outside of the industry so that you can scale your business? And I'm saying this, and we've talked about this on prior recordings. I didn't pre-qualify this. Understanding that most of the contractors out there, most of the technicians out there, for example, that are being, jumping from company to company just for money, you don't want them. There may be an exception, but the vast majority of them, you don't want them. They've got bad attitudes. They don't care about customers. They care about money. Everything that you've come and done for your customers to build that reputation, they're going to come in and, over all of it, just ruin your reputation, undo all the work that you've worked so hard to build. So building your own, or attracting people who have the right potential. They say don't hire based on experience as the number one thing. Experience is important. We love to have that, but hire based on personality. And we take that a lot farther than just personality. It's more than personality. This comes down to your values as a human being. If your company is built around your values, and you're all about being honest with your customer, really caring for them, actually doing a good job, right? Doing the right thing, even if nobody is there to watch. If that's who you are, and that speaks to the work that you do, and that's what's built your reputation up until this point, you can't scale that unless you hire people who share those values. Are you listening to me? Do they share those characteristics that are required for that particular role for consistent performance and success? Characteristics meaning an inclination to behave a certain way, a predisposition towards cleanliness and organization. For example, if you need somebody that drives a clean and organized van, and you want them to dress with clean and organized uniforms, you hire people that are naturally that way. But you have to measure for that. So that's part of your culture. But now, as we're getting out there and we're competing, and the market's getting tighter and tougher, and it's going to get tough, how are you going to compete against these heating and air conditioning companies who have a bigger budget? There's ABC Heating and Air Conditioning Company across town. They're huge. Got all these social media people running around. They're the best heating and air company in town. You hear about it all the time on the every platform that you can advertise on. Here you come in, you want a slice of that, and all you seem to get are those price shoppers. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can get your slice too, but you're going to have to not spend as much money on your marketing. You need to spend more time in identifying what type of marketing that you need to do so that you are perceived as unique. And a unique brand is one thing. There's all these heat and air companies out there, but this one brand is really unique. That's important. But a unique marketing position is what we call it. A unique marketing position. You can get heating and air anywhere, but you can only get this at Pete's Heating and Air. They're the only ones that do this. Whatever that is, we call that blue ocean. Okay. That's what we talk about here. That's what you need to be considering as the industry changes. Because I'm going to tell you what, people don't just want heating and air. There's something deeper that they always want. And when you can speak to that, the response to your marketing advertising multiplies. It returns twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times as many results as just the standard old heating and air. And oh, by the way, we'll save you X amount of dollars. There's that money motivator again. Money motivates employees, money motivates customers, right? Now that depends. There are stronger motivators. That's why they give you that money, or that's why they work for your company. So you need to know what that unique marketing position is, or that unique marketing mechanism is. Sometimes we use that strategy if you don't want to be a specialist of some sort. Then we have to talk about the marketing message. How do I cut through all the clutter so that the message speaks to me? And I'll give you an example. Let's say my name is Pete and I'm overweight. I'm a tall guy, but I'm also in my 50s. So I'm an older, tall guy that can't get rid of his pot belly and sits behind the computer all day. And I've been thinking about, okay, what exercises can I do? What diet should I do? I need to do something to get this belly down, right? And this ad pops up, and it says, if you're 50 years old and older, and you've been struggling with that pot belly, and it's hard to defeat because you have a sedentary work. I'm like, me, right? Then you need to try the tall guy workout. the old tall guy workout, right? Whatever that may be. You need to target this. So when you start speaking directly to the person where they're going, me. And by the way, people buy for emotional reasons, not logical. You're selling logic. Everybody does it. And that's why when you learn how to do it the right way, it yields so many better results. So we have to be smarter than the big guys. We have to go deeper than the big guys. We have to dial in on that. And by the way, there's multiple messages based on what's called a marketing currency. We'll get into that later, but a currency is they give you money, you make this pain go away. What is that pain? People say, well, they just want the heating and air work. No. They wouldn't even have a heating and air conditioning system in their house if the house was naturally warm and cool, or it naturally maintained the perfect temperature. Well, I don't want that equipment in mine. I don't even want heating and air conditioning. I just want it comfortable, right? Well, discomfort physically leads to discomfort emotionally. And emotional decisions are where it's at. And then my emotion might be the weekend's coming. We're having a wedding and all the receptions coming to my house. The AC's out. I'm going to have 30 people in here. I've got to have something done. I'm not really worried about your promotion. I'm worried about putting something in here. I mean, if you came in and said, we've got a system, we've got an inventory, this is multi-stage. What this means is it's going to come in and replace your existing system. And when you have a lot of people over, it can ramp up its capacity and it actually do more cooling to be able to handle a lot of people. Do you ever entertain people? Right? And by the way, we can get started on that tomorrow. We'll have it done before the weekend, whatever. So, I mean, if that's my world and you're speaking to that, it's going to be hard for me to tell you no, even if you are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 higher than, the other companies out there. That's an example. How do you get to that point? Well, That's a process. And so we'll talk about that. So what you're also going to be wanting to work in is the customer company relationship and creating a more adhesive relationship. Now, most of your companies are going to tell you, most of the trainers are going to tell you, well, that's the customer experience. And it is, it's usually the customer experience. That's emotional. We want your customers to love you, right? Just like we want your employees to love working there. And we do everything we can to create that environment, but we also create something called entanglement. We have customer entanglement, we have employee entanglement. That's that sticky stuff that makes it hard to leave. Let's say that you're 5 years into a program that becomes vested at 7 years. So you've been putting money in this account, and the company's been putting money in the account. And as long as you stay through this point, that money becomes yours. You become vested. But if you leave early, well, you lose that money, right? Or you lose that vacation, or you lose that big bonus as an employee. As a customer, you lose those customer rewards points that apply towards the new system. Maybe, right? You lose. There's these different things. It's a loss, right? And so there's strategies that we need to put together and be unique. We can beat the big guys. We can be better at this stuff than they are. But it's kind of hard when you're out there turning the wrenches, isn't it? Also, processes are well thought out, step-by-step things that we do on a regular basis that deliver a consistent customer experience so that your customer is allowed to know that they're getting, by their measurement, know that they're getting the same level of service today that they got before, because there's a consistency to what this technician did by comparing it to what that last one did. It's pretty much the same steps. There's a little bit difference in the personality, but there's a process in place. There's a process in how the phones are answered, and so it's reassuring. That's what franchises do, by the way. No matter what McDonald's you go into, if you order a large order of French fries, they're all cooked at the same temperature for the same amount of time in the same grease. They're cut from the same potato. They probably have the exact same amount of salt, maybe. I don't know. And it's consistency. There's no surprises. You don't go in there and get a bad set of potatoes, usually, French fries. Well, your customers don't mind surprises if they're good, but they don't like bad surprises, okay? Now, we've got all this stuff that's going in, all this stuff that's going on, and so in order to attract these customers and employees, we have to have this work kind of figured out and have a strategy in place. And then all we have to do, you really don't have to know all this stuff. You just have to have the consistency in including it in your day-to-day activity, your weekly and monthly schedule, in your quarterly schedule, whether it be marketing, whether it be working with your team, whatever it happens to be. But you got to have a strategy for holding a really good culture. I call it the culture of champions. If you want a culture where people like working there, and they're not going to go, make a few extra bucks over at this big company and give this up. But why would I? I like it here. Plus, I'm in charge of my own income to a certain extent, maybe, right? So if you are going to attract better employees, and it would be nice to win a really good one away from the competitor. What you're going to want to do, or retain the ones that you have. This is huge. Don't go cutting your hours back. Don't go sending them home early. They're not going to go home. They're going to go interview at your competitors, right? Because, they need their 40 hours. Okay. So charge enough for, in order to be able to carry them and take care of them and send them to training and have culture building events on top of everything else that you do. You got to build that into your pricing. Charge enough for that. And in order to be able to charge enough for that, build kind of value that you need in order to be able to charge more. The customer writes bigger checks to more professional companies. be that professional company. And you're judged by your exterior. You're judged by the things that you think don't matter more often than not. Okay. So those are some of the things we want to talk about today. You need to be building a culture if you're going to scale. Otherwise, you're not going to get these guys to come work with you. Come join me. Follow the links. We're going to be putting a membership group together so that we collectively do this work as a group, so that you have access to that information and you can implement it in your company and not have to hire a full-time marketing person and not have to hire a full-time social media person. You don't have to hire all these different things that the big companies are doing. We as a group come together and we build these things, and everybody has access to them. And by the way, we do it in a way so that it's unique to you. It's got to be unique to you. You have to be, all this stuff has to be customizable. You have to be able to stand out as unique in your market. In order to do that, you're going to be unique to our group, right? But the process is the same. The process is where the money's at. The process is where the gains are made. You step in there, you do the work, you follow the process, you stay consistent, and lo and behold, things start to work for you. So stuff to think about. Pete Ramsey here, HVAC Greatness. You guys be safe out there. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Pete. A quick thank you for joining me today on HVAC Greatness, or maybe just letting me keep you company as you're out running about. Either way, I sincerely hope that you picked up on something today that might help you and your business progress on your journey to HVAC Greatness. Want more? Make sure we stay on the air. Share the podcast with a friend, rate and review it, and be sure to subscribe to our email list at hvacgreatness.com so that you don't miss anything. This is Pete Ramsey signing out and reminding you why your customers love your business and what makes your company great. In one word, you. So let's keep refining your already good image and make it truly great.